Welcome to a new video in my SAP GUI scripting series. In the previous video, you have seen how to extract data from an SAP report or a table. In this video, we look at an example of extracting data from any SAP GUI transaction. If you are new to GUI scripting, I recommend watching my first video in this series, which explains the basics of GUI scripting and addresses some common issues. The Excel file I'm showing in this video is available for download, and you can find the link in the video description. This example is done in SAP CRM, but the concept can be used in any GUI system. Let's get started. We have a list of order numbers, and we need to extract certain fields from these orders. This could be done with a query or a table select, but in some cases it might be just easier to do it from the transaction itself. So the order numbers are stored in column A. Column B is the status field, which is initially set to 0, indicating that this order needs to be extracted. And then this value changes to either 1 or 2 by the code to indicate whether the operation was successful or not. The values from the order are dumped from column D to G. So let's see this macro in action. First, I need the order numbers listed in column A. The code will start order numbers from row 10, and it will go down until it finds an empty cell. So in my case, it's going to look for these two orders in line 10 and 11, and then it will check whether the status is 0. So I need to set it to 0 if I want these lines to be processed. I'm using the status column because I wanted a way to potentially reprocess entries that failed previously for whatever reason. So if anything fails, you can set the status back to 0 and you can rerun it if, let's say, if the reason for the failure was like a network issue. But that's pretty much it. So in the code, I'm connecting to this GUI session. So I'm logged into the GUI, and all I need is to click the extract button, and then Excel will connect to this GUI session. So I'm clicking on the button, and then the logic starts in SAP. So it's opening transaction CRM, the order, it's opening the orders, it's navigating the screen where these particular fields are, and then extracting the value from the GUI. And then it's complete. So what the code does in addition at the end is that it updates this cell B2 with the current date and timestamp. Now let's see the code which makes all this happen. So I'm clicking on pressing Alt F11 to bring up the Visual Basic Editor, and then the code itself is in module 1 under modules. So if I scroll all the way to the top, you can see the general declarations here, some of the variables that I'm using to create a connection and attach to the session, and some other miscellaneous objects. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but if you look at my first video, I'm talking about these generic functions here in a little bit more detail as well. If I scroll all the way to the bottom of the code, you see the method start extract. That's is getting executed when I click on the extract data button on the worksheet. So first I'm setting the system I want to connect to. So I want to connect to DCG client 210, and then I'm using a variable which is called the current line, just to keep track of which line I'm on and which order I'm processing. So I'm setting the initial value to 10 because in this Excel file the first order number is at line 10. And I'm checking whether that line, I'm creating a loop which runs until the current line 1, so it's the line, let's say line 10, 11, so and 1 is column 1, so I'm checking whether there is data in column A, and if there is data, so there is any data, then I'm checking the cell's current line 2, which is again always the current line and the second cell, and I'm checking whether that's 0. So again, I'm only processing the ones which are set to status 0, which is to be processed. And if it's set to anything else, it will just skip to the next line. So if it is 0, then I'm calling the run GUI script method and passing the current line as a parameter. And that actually runs the entire SAP logic. And after that, I increment the current line by 1 and I return to this loop. So I'm checking for the next line and the next line. So in this example, I'm starting from 10 and I would do 11 and I go to 12, and then this check fails because the value of A12 is 0. So then it will just exit. So what I do at the end of the code, I update cell 22, which is B2, which stores the current date and time. So I always update that just to indicate what was the last time I extracted the data from SAP, and I end the session. So that's all the code does. So let's look at the run GUI script method. The run GUI script method has one parameter, which is the current line, and that's the row number, the Excel row number I'm passing to this method, which indicates which line I am processing at the moment. So the code will attach to the GUI session if it's not attached already, and then it executes the piece of code which was generated by the GUI script recording, but again it's been modified already. And once the script is executed, then I update the cell current line 2, which is the second column, with 1 to say it's completed. And if any error occurred, then the execution goes to this my error label, where I update the same cell to number 2, which says it's failed. And you can see that in the start extract method, we have a loop which runs this piece of code for every single line in the Excel. So this is how the code will extract one order after the other, and then it can, handle a number of orders in a loop. So let's create the recording for this exercise. So I'm going to script recording and playback, and you might need to open this more in order to specify the file name that you want to create for the script. And so I already have a crmd underscore, so I'm just going to name this crmd underscore 2.wbs, and I will click on record. So if you have trouble bringing up this window or clicking on the record button, then most probably the entire scripting or the script recording is disabled in your system. So you can go to the first video in my GUI scripting to see how to check that in a transaction and how to change that, of course, if you have authorization to do so. So let's click on record. So the first step is to start a transaction. So crmd underscore order. Again, because the system is going to run this in a loop, it's important that you start the transaction with /n, so it can always start a transaction even if you are in a transaction. So I'm going to click on open. I'm pasting the order number here, I'm opening it, and what I'm doing now is I'm selecting every single line that I want to extract, sorry, every single field that I want to extract on the screen. I'm even pressing enter just to make sure that this, the fact that I'm clicking on the field and I'm pressing enter is getting recorded in the script. So for this particular example, I wanted to get the net value and the currency, and then I wanted the customer group 4 from the additional data tab. So that's customer group 4, and I'm going on to the line item. So I expand the line item and I'm getting the product category. There is no particular reason why I picked these 5 fields. I just wanted to show that you can pick fields from the main screen, one of the tab, header and item as well. And again, this code assumes that you only have one line item in the order, or at least it's only extracting data from the first line item. But again, it should be good enough for this exercise. So that's all there is to it. So I can click on stop, and I should have all I need in the recording. Okay, let's have a brief look at the recording. Again, you can ignore the first couple of lines. That's handled in the Excel macro. This is all we are interested in. So the first few lines are quite straightforward. So if we do maximize, we call the transaction, we click on the open button, and then we enter the order number. So obviously this would need to get replaced, this hard-coded value. And then we click on open, and then we access the screen elements. And if it's quite a long one, but if I scroll at the end, you can probably make sense of it. So you can see it's txt crm t underscore 701 sales UI net value and set focus. So this is why I wanted to click on that field, and these other two lines are responsible for the fact that I pressed enter. I think this send v key 0 is pressing enter. But anyway, so at least I know how to get to my net value field, my currency field. That's my customer group 4, and that's my product hierarchy, and that's what I'm going to use in my recording. Sorry, in the macro. I'm back in the Visual Basic Editor, and I also have my script recording on the right side of the screen. And what I did initially is I just copy and pasted this piece of line, these lines into my Excel, and just like before, I changed this session variable to my session variable, which is called object sessions, or obj scss. So you just replace all of them. First line, second line, third line, it's all the same. So the first change is in the fifth line, which is in the original code. It says the object id.text equals this fixed value. So this I replaced with this piece of code which says cells in brackets current line, comma 1 dot value. So that's the cell in the current line, which is initially 10, and then comma 1 is column 1, which is column A, and then the value is basically this. So this is how I am feeding. Sorry, this is how I'm feeding the data from Excel into the script. So then in the next line, well, in my previous recording I had an extra line. Probably it's not going to make any difference, but I'm pressing enter, and then that's where we come to the piece where we get the current value, the net value. And what you can see here is in the original code it was set focus. So let me show you how you can do some debugging in Microsoft Excel. So I'm just pasting this line here. So I'm changing the name of the session variable, as I said before, and so what you see in the recording is that's the method. So this find by ID item is going to return the object of that particular field. I mean, in this case, the object for the net value field. And in the original recording, we're calling the set focus method to set the focus of that field. But I don't really want to set the focus on that field. I just want to get the value from that field. But I don't know what is the method to get the value, but I can quite easily find out. So I just by copy and pasting the code from the recording, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set a breakpoint at this line. So I just click at the in the column here, and then the breakpoint is indicated by this red line and the red dot. So if I execute the script, the execution will stop here. So let's just do that. So I set the status to 0, otherwise nothing is going to happen. I click on extract. We don't really see the SAP screen, but it's calling the CRMD underscore order now. And in a couple of seconds, right now the execution has stopped. So what I want to do now is I want to see this object in the debugger. So I'm selecting the entire line without the dot set focus. And you select that, you right click, and then you say add to watch, and then this window pop-up comes up, and then you just OK. And what you have now is this object is now in your watch window. So you can see that it is a type something SAP text field target, something, doesn't really matter. What you need is you open it up, and then you see all the properties of the of this object. So you can see that it has a tooltip, it has a display text, it has some like highlighted and height and character width. And what we should be looking for now is a field which shows us the value, or a property which gets us the value of that field. So the display text is almost, you know, bang on, except that it has some leading spaces, which, I mean, it might be just fine, but I know that there is a better field for that, or a better property. So if I scroll down, then I can see that there is a text for that. And then in the text we get the value back. I mean, it's formatted in the same way as it appears in the SAP screen. So the, you know, the thousand separator and the decimal place is based on your regional settings. But anyway, so if you replace this set focus by text, you can get the value of that field instead of setting the focus to it. And so now you can click on stop to stop the code. And you can click here to remove the breakpoint. And if I delete that line and if I go back to my original code, my working code, you can see that I'm using exactly the same variable. So I'm saying that, you know, net value dot text to get the text of that field, and I'm adding this to the beginning of the line. So I'm saying cells current line for dot value. So again, if we go back to the script as well, so the current line is whatever line we are at, and then 4 is column 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Dot value equals the value from the SAP. So this is how I'm putting the value back into Excel from the GUI transaction. And if we could keep going through the code, and also if I get the recording side by side, I'm actually doing the same with the rest. So if I go to the end of this line, you see that that's my currency field. And in the original recording, you see the same. So I just replace the set focus to text, and in the beginning, I'm setting this value, putting this value into one of the cells. So now it's cells current line, comma 5, because that's column 5. And I will do the same for product group 4, which is actually customer group, and then the product category. And if you look at the coding here, so again, customer group 4, product hierarchy, and in the original recording it was again product group 4 that set focus, and then product hierarchy dot set focus. All of them just got replaced to text. Text might not be the best property for all the different controls, but for the ones that I'm using, which were pretty much just drop downs and input fields, the text worked for all of them. But using the same debugging exercise, which I showed you in a couple of minutes ago, you can just check any object in SAP and then see how they behave and what properties they have. And you might want to use some other properties to extract some different information from that field. And what you have also seen is I have removed all these lines where where I'm doing this caret position, which I don't really know what it does. It's maybe the position within the string. And I've also omitted the lines with the send vk0, which is just about pressing enters. It just makes the script a little bit faster, but you can leave it in. It's not going to make any difference. So we wanted to extract 4 values, and you can see the first value, second, third, and fourth. And as I said, once it is done, we are just setting the value to 1. And if anything went wrong in this code, because I have this on error go to my error, the execution of this code will go to my ERR or my error, and then it will set the status to 2, which is failed. So in this recording, you have seen how to create a script which accesses a transaction, and then it picks particular fields in that transaction. And then using that script, you can extract the values of those particular fields and then put them into Microsoft Excel. Also, which I find also quite important, is that you learn how to do debugging in GUI scripting, and then see the individual SAP objects, see the properties of this object, and then looking at those properties, you can find the exact value that you want to extract from SAP. And of course, this particular example does this operation in a loop, so you can extract data for number of objects in a single run. I hope you have found this exercise useful. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget that the link for this exercise is in the video description. I have a playlist of GUI scripting examples in case you wish to expand your knowledge further. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.